Hello and welcome to. Let me just see if you're actually getting the mic audio. It looks perfect. Hello and welcome to another episode of our design streaming sessions. I am your host, Farama Henry, and this show is brought to you by DoBetterUX.com, the number one place for you to learn UX design, design thinking, and product design thinking skills. That can really take your career to the next level. Now, we do very sort of like unconventional type of content, especially in our podcast. We talk about those core things that you don't really find elsewhere on the internet being communicated about honestly. You usually just have people repeating the same information over and over again, looking at whatever is important for them to get found, and discovered on the internet. So we try to be a little bit more unconventional. That's why we have these design streaming sessions. Now, if you are interested in that kind of content, please do check out our podcast and our blog and our design community. You can see the links in the description below. I think that is how you say it. Let's get started with the topic of the day today. So the topic of the day today is can you do UX remotely? Should you be doing it? I think maybe that is the bigger question of should you be doing it and how should you be doing it. In today's session, we want to unpack why you should be thinking about UX design, remote UX design, how to get started, and set up for remote UX design, the tools and methods that you need to jumpstart your setup and get ahead from the rest from the get-go when you start setting up this. I wonder if the volume here is a little bit too much. Let me just tone it down a little bit. Big ups to Harris Heller. It's got this streaming bit, so if you are a streamer or interested in having some really cool background music in your videos and other things, he's got a Spotify playlist called Stream Bits. So not sponsored, not affiliated. I think he's just doing a great job supporting the streaming community, so big ups to you, Harris. It's a very cool dude, gamer and stuff. So back to our conversation, on jump starting this, remote, remote UXing, if I should call it. There are a couple of things, that we want to think about. You want to, consider why would you want to be doing this? What is your situation? We want to talk about how you can get started. We want to talk about some of the tools that you can use and methods that work remotely, and some things that might not fit the remote work, and maybe some of the things that you might get better results with if you were to do it in a more physical space, in a more face-to-face type of scenario. So that is how we're going to break down today's live streaming session. If you're watching this after the show, I don't know if I can add snippets and all of that fancy thing to it. I'll see if I can do that. If not, you can just skip to the part that interests you, or just chill with us. Feel free to send in any comments into the chat section. I see that there are some people who have joined the stream. Feel free to just drop us any comments, any questions as we go along. So let's get started with why would you consider doing UX design remotely. So first of all, I think we all know the situation we are in the world right now with the pandemic and COVID-19. I hope that YouTube is not going to do some weird stuff. You heard some people saying that YouTube is doing some weird stuff. So maybe you are in this situation where you are forced to be working from home, or you have actually lost your job, that you're working at a role because of COVID-19, and you cannot do, the work in the office anymore, and you want to you know get new opportunities or new jobs in remote working. you know that is sort of like a situational thing, that and I think it's a vital skill that you can use going forth. You know, being enabled to work remotely as a UX designer, there are some things that that you want to do remotely, and there are some things that you will, of course, get better results if you do them face to face and in person, as I mentioned earlier. Another reason why is that maybe this is the career path that you want to go into. You have realized that maybe the world is going to carry on, working remotely at larger than the scale that we had been before the pandemic, and you think this is a good thing that you might want to look to get into, and be a digital nomad. You can work from anywhere in the world, and work for any company in the world, which brings us to our third point, really, which is maybe you want to be able to unlock new global opportunities. And work with international clients from anywhere in the world, and maybe put some really cool clients that you could have never worked with in your own local area on your portfolio. So whether it's forced by the situation that the world is in right now, or it's a more of a design and intentional thing that you want to do to carry on this career path and be a digital nomad, there are multiple reasons why you might want to do this remotely, and I think just having the benefits of working remotely could be a lot to add to your toolkit as a UX designer in the world that we are living in right now, to really open and unlock opportunities for you to work with global clients, if that is something that you might be interested in doing. So those are the whys. Let's move on how do you actually get started. What are some of the things that you need to think about. I'm not going to go into sort of like obviously you need to get set up and get the technology set up, but I wanted to start with a very common thing that a lot of people overlook, especially people that do not freelance or haven't been in a space where they work without a boss. There's a lot of self-discipline involved in working on your own terms and working remotely, whether you've got a boss or you're freelancing, whichever way, whether you're hired full-time and you're part of a team, for you to still be able to deliver quality results all the time, every time, you need to be able to have a lot of self-discipline, have a lot of drive in you, and also love what you're doing, because if you lose the interest in what you're doing, that is easy to start procrastinating on things and losing the quality of the work that you can actually produce to the people you're working with or you're working for, the ones who actually hired you for this gig. So the gig culture requires a lot of focus and a lot of self-discipline into really putting in the effort. So if you're not a freelancer, that is something that you want to think about. And I know it feels like you might be able to do it, but if you're just one of those people that are waiting for their boss to tell them what to do next, and maybe you've got a family and children at home, and you've never worked in that kind of situation where you have other things that are distracting you, that is something that you might really want to think about before you get into this, if you are able to handle that, or if you are going to be working at other places, maybe like coffee shops or whatever it is. Now that we are seeing most of the countries and the lockdown being softened out a bit, maybe it's something that you can do if you can't necessarily work from home. The second thing that I want to talk about is getting set up. Obviously there is the technology aspect. You need to have a stable internet connection for you to be able to upload files, to collaboratively work with people, and to do research and just do everything online. You need to have a stable internet. I don't know where you're watching this from. I am from South Africa, and I understand that in South Africa, in some places, good internet is very hard to get. I also don't have like fiber. Fiber is available in South Africa, but like not in the area that I decided to buy a house. I decided to get a house in the Bundus for some reason. So I use so-called 5G millimeter wave technology that they're rolling out, which is good enough for me to stream, as you can see, and do other things as well, like if I want to do a collaborative online workshop or a discovery workshop or something, a meeting that is going to take lots and lots of hours and whatever it is, to stream good quality to the audience that I have. Let me know if you want me to do sort of like a gear thing of what I have set up here, sort of like the microphone, the audio that I use, the visuals, the camera that I use to stream. I use this for my collaborative sessions, for my voice call meetings on a day-to-day basis. It's not just for live streaming. This adds a good layer of quality to how I interact with people, because they can see me clearly. If I want to present something on a board, or I don't know, like show them something on a paper, it's easy and much more visible for them to actually see what I am doing or trying to show them. So those are the benefits of having good quality gear and things that you can use, so that you're fully, people can articulate you. You remember, if we're doing this remotely, it's very hard for people to see facial recognitions, to see my hands moving all over the world, all over the place like I'm doing right now. And that is very important, for us as human beings to communicate, other than to just hear the voice. I see a lot of people making the mistake of having a whole meeting, facilitating a meeting with their camera switched off. If you are in any position of facilitating a conversation, a meeting, a workshop, or whatever it is, make sure your camera is on so that people can see you nodding when they're speaking, and you don't necessarily have to be vocal or verbal, or take out a sound for it. Cool. So let's move on from actually, let's touch a little bit more about getting set up. So I spoke about having a computer, internet, good audio and video quality. I think also on setup, you need to really consider where you are going to be working. If you're going to be working at home or at a local shared office space, or whatever it might be. If you are going to be working at home, I really suggest that you set up a workspace that is dedicated to you just doing the work that you're doing. That will help you with changing the state of mind that you are in, sort of like from sitting in the living room and eating a bag of chips and watching Netflix, and when you get into that office space or working space, you sort of like change this. That's just like how your mind changes if you're commuting to work. Of course, with this you have the benefit that you're actually not commuting to work, you're probably commuting to your spare bedroom or whatever it is. So set up your workspace, make it feel like it's a workspace, have all the things that you need to work close to you, that inspire you, that put you in the headspace where you are really in the mood of problem solving and doing different things. Yeah, I think that is the extra bit that I wanted to add on getting set up. So get the technology right, get the environment and the space right, get your headspace and self-discipline right. I think another thing, the next point that I have on getting set up is that you want to update your online presence. Right now that you are looking at working remotely and being discovered remotely, most of your activities and your engagements need to happen online, and that is how you will be able to find the different opportunities and other things that you might be able to do and people to work with. So I found LinkedIn to be a very good networking digital platform, for people all around the world. I still use things like Twitter and Instagram. I don't use Facebook. I just don't want to use Facebook. And also I feel like, the people that are on Facebook that I'm really interested in are also on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So I'm not so concerned about that, thinking that I'm losing a group of people there that, I can tap into in growing the design community that we have at dobetterux.com, or other things that we do that we would like people to follow us on and engage with people on. So update your online presence. Make sure that you're a little bit more visible. You're posting, you engage with people in groups and other channels that you can engage with people on. You need to get into the idea of creating content to put yourself out there. Maybe that is in the form of creating a website and a blog that you regularly update and tell people about what is happening within your design career and what are you doing, and etc. That way it'll help to be discovered by people and keep the conversations going, whether it's for a specific gig or just to stay relevant in case you want to leave your current gig and move on to the next one. You have some reference points that you can give people that are online already. You don't have to be sending files across and portfolios and things that people have to download. You can just send people a link to your to your website, or other things that you're doing online that don't necessarily need people to download them to engage with them and see what you do. So update your online presence, and before you jump into it and everything, give it a try. Do some of the basic things that you do in your everyday work. So if you're working on whiteboards and sticky notes, look for a tool and engage with your smaller team before you go on a big scale. Look for the things that work and fit for you before you go on a big scale, which brings us to the next segment of our conversation. So if you're still listening to this, or you've just joined us on the live streaming session, please do check out our website, Do Better UX. That's where you can find out other sets of content that we're doing. So if you're into reading, we have a blog for you. If you're into listening to audio, we've got a podcast called Not a UX Designer that you can check out for all the resources around UX design thinking, product design, and the skills that can really help you take your UX career to the next level. So moving on swiftly, after the shameless plug there, let's get into the tools and the things that you can use to actually should have brought some water, man. I keep on having a weird throat situation. Let's get into the tools that you can actually use for remote UXing, if we can call it that, as I've called it from the starting of the stream. I think there's different things that you need to think about. Things like, okay, obviously you won't be able to do everything in the sense of UX online. You could do most of it, probably 99% of it, probably all of it, but not with all the results that you might be thinking that you're gonna get, right? So some things just work better in real life, like relationships and other things like that. So things like remote user testing or usability testing, things like recruiting user for qualitative research, things like quantitative tools, things like collaboration and ideation, things like collaborative actual UI design tools that you can use, survey tools and video conferencing tools if you want to do it the DIY way. There's different things that you can think about and do. So we're going to cover some of those. Obviously it's not the extensive list of things that you should be thinking about and considering. But I think these are the main things that you can think about doing, and some of the main things that UX designers sort of like do currently. So let's start with remote user testing or usability testing. And this is where we are talking about, you are potentially having an interview with somebody using your app or your website. Now there are different ways that you can show your app screens on your desktop device, but we're not going to get into that now. We're just going to talk about some of the things that you can use for remote usability testing, or doing interviews for user testing as such. So let me see if I can just move my notes to the side and share my screen with you, because I have a couple of things here. So there we go, you can see my screen now. Let me just pop my notes nicely there. So let's just head over to we're talking about usability testing, right? So there are paid solutions that you can definitely use. The good thing about these paid solutions is that they offer you an audience and people who are signing up to to come onto these platforms to actually test people's products, and they get paid for it, right? So these are some of the things that I would recommend, and you could probably look at. So user testing, this is usertesting.com. It's a platform that can help you sort of like gather those insights and your target audience. This is more of a qualitative feedback thing, because you actually have the videos of the people talking to you and having real human insight. So this is whereby you can put up your product up there and set it up in a way that people can go through a certain step of certain tasks that you would like them to complete, and actually react and respond into the webcam, into the camera, right? That is the first one that I would like to talk about. So no, I do not want you to. All right, so the second one is Usability Hub. Similar structure. So most of these paid ones, you will see the similar structure where you're actually paying for the users that will come here and test your product. But you can also use this as a resource to do A/B testing and other cool things. So I have used Usability Hub quite a bit. In my previous experience. So it's really cool in the sense, let me see if I can actually get into some of the things that you can do here. So you can do things like heat maps, see where people are clicking first, and it actually gives you an average score. So this is not in the traditional sense of doing user interviews and you're actually talking to people. You're just giving people certain tasks and people are reacting to mainly your designs uploaded via images and whatever it is. So where would you click if you wanted to apply for whatever it is? There's also design surveys, which is the one of the topic that I wanted to get into. What are some of the tools that you can use for surveys? You can also do things like preference tests. I call this A/B testing. So which design do people like more? You can show them different screens, and they can tell you which are the different designs that you're interested in. So Usability Hub is really cool because you can also send links to just if you already have a user base that you want to send this to, or maybe you have a community that you have in your for your product, and you have people who would love to give you feedback. You can just generate the links and send it there, or you can recruit the people by using the platform on its own, and just deploying, and you want to reach X amount of people, and you pay for that specific thing. So I'm not affiliated by any of these websites. It's just some of the tools that I've used in the past, and would recommend for you guys to check out as well. So moving on swiftly, still on the topic of doing remote user testing, we've got Lookback. Lookback is really cool because it allows you to do a live share, real life testing. It's a way more advanced set of tools for you to be able to do user testing and record what people are doing, sort of like in a voice call type of fashion, and you can have your team listening in, and capturing the notes in the background so you can go through them, and all of that cool stuff. Let's see if there are any demos that we can see here that might be interesting. Okay, so there are only videos. I don't want to play any videos because I got slashed by Apple the last time that I added their video stuff in my when I did the Apple Time Flies UX coverage. But anyway, Lookback is cool because you can do, like you can see here, remote live share moderated testing. So that is where you're moderating the conversation, you're actually asking person questions and stuff. You can do sort of like an in-person moderated testing, where you're actually sitting with the person, but you have the rest of your team at the back end, and they're also joining the session, and they can listen into your conversation and take notes and capture everything in one place. I think the cool part about Lookback and the next tool that I'm going to show you is really around capturing the feedback and having all of the feedback in one place. Because what usually do is, when you try to do it in the DIY way, if you decide to just use a video conferencing tool like Skype or a Whereby, or Google Meets, whatever you want to use, Zoom, you can record the session, but the way that you capture your feedback, traditionally you would do it with sort of like a mirror type of like double-sided mirror type of scenario, where you have your team in the other room, and the other people in the other room doing the interview, and the other people capturing. We would actually just put swimming lanes across the room with the person's name and the different segments of the app that, or the product that we are testing, and would just go in there with sticky notes and put them in there. But we're talking remote here, so that might not be possible. So these tools give you a great way to capture the feedback and tag the feedback, so that it's easy to search for and really go through it. They also have a self-test, which is an unmoderated form of the test, where you just go in there and you've got certain tasks that you can just go through and say, okay, I've done this is give feedback on each part of the task that they're doing. So that is Lookback. The next one that I'm going to show you is Optimal Workshop. Now this one is sort of like a stack of products that they have in here that can really help you with a couple of UX design or rather research things that you might commonly use for some of your UX research work. So things like card sorting and etc. Let's see if I can. So here we got card sorting. capability where you can go in and do a card sorting. The thing about Optimal Workshop and Look Back, as I said, it's about how you capture your insights and how you're able to really go through them and be able to synthesize what you're doing and what you're working on. So you've got a couple of things that you can do here. So also first click, things like online survey, so things like qualitative research. So this is where you're probably sitting with people, and it's a really powerful tool for you to be able to capture tags and sort of like some of the things that you want people to use. So you can also like set up tags already for like working, not working, confused about X, about certain features and whatever it is, so that it's easier for you to just go into the content after everybody captures it, and be able to find what you're looking for and be able to synthesize it fast. They also do offer, participant recruitment. Talking about participant recruitment, I think that is the next thing that I want to talk about, other than some of the tools that I've shown you here of doing remote usability testing. Recruiting participants, can go through, you can do, recruiting participants through these platforms. But it depends, what do you really want to do. If you're just validating an idea, one thing that I always advise people is that there is a thing, such a thing called, I don't know what it's called really, but I think it's like called a feedback curve, where when you get to a certain point, let me see, feedback curve. When you get to a certain point, you are actually just getting the same feedback, and when you're doing, things like prototype testing, user validation, you only need about 5 to 10 people. Actually 10 people is a lot, right? I think by the time you get to the 5th person, you're getting constant sort of like themes of what is confusing people, what is not working, what's working, and all of that stuff, right? I'm just trying to look for the feedback curve. Okay, I think this is the thing that I'm looking for. You only need 5 to test with 5 users. All right, let me show you guys this. So this is the thing. So when you start from 0, right, by the time you get to the 3rd person, you have about 75%. You would have discovered about 75% of the problems in your product, right? By the time you get to the 5th and 6th person, you've discovered about 90% of what's wrong with your product. So the problems in your product, what's working, what's not working, what's confusing people, and all of that. And this is something that is not just that is documented and it's a theory. It's something that I've actually done in person and proved over literally hundreds of usability tests that I've done over the years, of sitting with 5 potential users or customers of the product and taking them through the product and getting the feedback. By the time you get to the 3rd, 4th person, you have majority of the feedback that you need. So if you want to push it 5 to 10, but by the time you get to 9, 10, you definitely have all of the users, all of majority of the problems that are wrong with your thing. So if you're doing qualitative feedback. You don't need to recruit so many people. You could get these people out of your network of people, or be able to compensate them depending on what is your product, and is it used by the average person, or is it used by more of the elite type of user. If it's on the other side of the more elite, super user, expensive user, it might be harder to compensate them, but think about these things, and stitch your way around through the people that you have within your network, and other things, other places as well that you can tap into, right? Like UX design groups, or business groups, or you can actually join groups online that are dedicated to the audience that are being served with your certain product. So let's say your product is about the product that you're working on and doing research on. Let's say it's about parents or motherhood, or tracking your baby's progress, right? You can actually join groups online that have got mothers and other people, and you can talk to the group administrators and ask some of the people within that community if they can try out your product, if you can set up some time with them and have voice calls or whatever, if you decide to use one of these tools, or you decide to do it in a more DIY type of fashion, to be able to achieve what you want to do. So moving on swiftly, that is remote testing, recruiting users for qualitative research, right? Let's talk about collaboration and ideation. So what are some of the tools that you can use for your workshopy type of thing? So if you are a UX designer and you do discovery workshops and brainstorming workshops, the common ones that you probably have heard of now, if you are a UX designer who does any of those things and you have been in the COVID era this whole year, you would have heard a lot about Mural and Miro. I'm gonna call it Miro. I usually call it Miro, but just for the differentiation, I'm gonna call it Miro and Mural. So these are two whiteboard tools. You can find out what are the pros and cons and what works best for you. My personal preference is Mural, purely because of some of the things that they do, and I think that they have a very awesome community, and they've got really cool templates around some of the things that I do. And I really liked some of the things that they did early on, even before the COVID environment, that helped me run my design sprints online, which was things like adding the timer, things like the voting, the dot voting, and it's just easy to do in Mural versus doing it in Miro. But they're really up in the game. I saw one of them added like a voice call type of thing, so you can do your voice call in there and engage. But other than Miro and Mural, right, which I think you can just pick one of the two, I wanted to show you guys that you can also use, so if you are a UX designer and you also do some UI work and you work in Figma for any reason, or maybe you just work in Figma for any other reason other than what can I say, doing UI work, there is a plugin that I've been using. It's called Workshops, right? I think it's a very interesting little plugin because it allows you to get the different things that you want, right? So you can just click and if you don't know Figma is an online collaboration tool that is free for personal use, and you have other sets of things, but you can totally invite people to this, and anyone on it can move things around and manipulate any of these things. So this little plugin comes in with some really cool things. So you've got the rectangular post-its, the square post-its, you've got round dots that you can use for voting and things like that. You've got this grids and matrices that you can use for things like the effort and impact scale. If you do some of those things, and people can move their sticky notes in here, and their dots, so people can do some things like that. So it comes with the basic things that you might want to use, and a timer, right? So a lot of workshopy things, if you're running design sprints, this is something that is cool for you to have. So you actually don't have to get a Miro and a Miro thing. You can use a free calling conferencing tool like Whereby or something like that. There's a bunch of them these days, and you can just use Figma. And the cool part about Figma is that it also runs in your browser, so that is really cool. So it's easy for people to access. They don't have to download anything, and you can get this workshops plugin and be able to actually run your workshops right here in Figma. So the cool part about this is that you can collaborate with people, get comments, and everything that you want in here, and be able to put in a little timer there. I thought this was a really cool plugin that allows you to get away from the whole mess of Miro and having different subscriptions. So if you're already working in Figma, or if you're looking for a free solution, get Figma and the workshops plugin. 100%, it works perfect. I really like it. So moving on to other collaborative things, carrying on from Figma, if you are looking for collaborative design tools, you can look into Figma. There's also Adobe XD. I'm talking about these two mainly because they are pretty much free, and you also have a very good support base. And I think there are two companies that are doing really cool, innovative things. You do have to install Adobe XD. You don't necessarily have to install Figma. There's other tools that you can check out, like Framer, and you can check out things like Sketch and InVision. But the thing with Sketch and InVision, I don't really like the combination, because they're sort of like trying to compete to do the same thing. And there's like InVision Designer and etc. But what I would recommend for you to check out is Figma. And you can also check out Adobe XD. If you're coming from Adobe background, that will be really easy for you to adopt and work collaboratively, building your UI interfaces or your user journeys or your wireframes, anything sort of like design oriented that you might want to do collaboratively. If you're not using these tools already, check them out. I mentioned surveys in some of the tools that I already shown you, like Optimal Workshop and Lookback. They've got like inbuilt survey things. But if you're going for a DIY free type of solution, you might want to go with something that is a little bit more free, and something that allows you to do this on no budget, pretty much. So the good old Google Forms is one good option that you can go into, because you can export all that data and synthesize it in the way that you want in Excel. You need to be a little bit of an Excel wizard, or if you want to use Google Sheets, Okay, yeah, Google Sheets, that's what they call it. You need to be a little bit of a wizard in those tools for you to be able to filter out the data and synthesize it in the way that you want. Typeforms is another tool that you can use, which has got a really cool user interface of having one question at a time, which I think is easy for people to digest and go through surveys if they're giving you feedback. And SurveyMonkey has got a free and paid versions, but I think it's also a really powerful tool, especially when it comes to some of the analytics things that you can do with it, and be able to build dashboards that you can publish and export. So if you're willing to pay a little bit of money, I would strongly suggest you checking out SurveyMonkey. So that is Google Forms, Typeforms, and SurveyMonkey. If you want to use a little bit of more money, the Typeforms free version is totally fine. You can use it as long as if you don't mind having that link at the end of the form, as well as Google Forms. Anything that you use for free, you're basically marketing for those people. So give them some love if you're using their tools for free and you're getting the value that you need from them. Last but not least, I've been mentioning it along the way, sort of like free video conferencing tools. I don't know if Google Meets, it's still free for the COVID period. I understand that okay, so they still have it free. Premium video meetings now free for everyone. We re-engineered the service, so I don't know how long this is. The thing of them giving people this service for free, but that is one solution that you can use. The other solution that you can use that I like using, which just runs in the browser and just works, is Whereby. So let me see, Whereby. Cool. Whereby. So Whereby is also a very cool tool. I use it for most of my meetings and other things. I think one thing that I would like to mention here that I haven't mentioned yet is a scheduling tool. Now you want to be able to schedule a calendar, to able to filter out, to get people to set up time with you, find the best slot within your calendar. Now this can be a back and forth thing that can happen a lot. Now I've tried a couple of calendar tools, and I've ended up using Calendly for most of the things that I do. The things that I like about Calendly is, so here's Calendly here, is that you can, when you're setting up your time slots, you can actually buffer in that, okay, between session A and session B, buffer in, a 30 minutes or 45 minutes in there for you to debrief with your team or whatever you might want to do, take a break, get another cup of coffee. I really like that thing, because if somebody sets up, time on 1:30 to 2 o'clock for that 30-minute slot, it automatically saves up the time from 2 o'clock to 2:15 if it's 15 minutes break that you set up for you to take that break. I think they did it originally for commuting, but I think it works great for remote testing and usability things for you if you have a team in the background and you want to debrief and talk to people and figure out how did the session go and what are the next things that you want to do, etc., etc. Moving on swiftly, that is how you can play around with video conferencing tools. And obviously a thing to consider is, are you showing a mobile device and a screen, or are you showing a website, or are you asking the user about a certain thing that they can download on their device, and you can ask them to go through certain tasks and talk them through it, and how you're going to capture the feedback at the end of the day. So all these tools that I mentioned here help you with one way or the other to do those things. Let's talk about the next thing here, which is the methods that work remotely. I think I've mentioned that you can do almost everything, but there are some other things that you might want to do or might not necessarily want to do remotely. I mentioned things like remote usability testing. I mentioned things like ideation and collaboration, and discovery calls and things like that. So if things like design thinking, discovery workshops, and discovery calls and things like that, you can definitely do them with any whiteboarding tool and those type of things. There are some techniques that you need to think about, like asking people to keep their camera on so that you can interact with them. As human beings, like I mentioned earlier on, we have other cues of communication other than just our voice. So if people have their cameras off, it's either you have a lot of people just not being collaborative, or they are being more passive and doing something else on the computer at the other end. Whereas if you ask them to switch on their cameras and also switch on your camera and engage with them, you can look at them, engage with them, wave your hands around like a crazy person like myself, and engage with them as we would do as human beings. So those are some of the things and tips that you need to think about when it comes to using these online tools. It's not just plugging them and playing them. You can also do things like design sprints online. I think if you look out for doing design sprints online, you can find some resources. Please do let us know in the comment section if you want to hear about doing design sprints online. Maybe that is something that we might cover in one of our next design streaming sessions. If you don't know what design sprints are, please do check out our podcast, Not a UX Designer. We have created a couple of episodes that are dedicated to UX design, what they are, when to do them, etc., etc., etc. So wherever you listen to your podcast, please do check out Not a UX Designer, and that is our podcast. You can learn about design sprints, UX design career, and other things around product design and building better products, the methods and the people that help it all happen. We also have some cool interviews that we have there as well on our podcast. So design thinking workshops, discovery calls, design sprints are something that you can do with some of the online whiteboarding tools, and this work great online if you apply some of the skills like turning on your camera, how to keep people engaged. It's a whole different thing, unlike if you're in a room drawing on a board. There are technical challenges that might happen. There are the learning curve when you're starting your sessions or your workshops, where you want to talk people through the tool that you're using. So people might not be familiar with that specific tool that you're using at that time, so you might want to take them through those things. Those are some of the things you can think about when you're doing those things online and not necessarily in person. How do you keep the morale high, take away any confusion and frustration around using the tool, because people are not just using pens and throwing things on the sticky note and putting it on the wall, on the board, or whatever it is, right? So that is number one. Number two, obviously, as I've showed you in some of the things like Figma, you can do sort of like collaborative wireframing, prototyping, and other design artifacts that you might need for your product. And if you are a UI designer, this will definitely work great for you, because there are a lot of tools, design tools that are out there that don't necessarily need you to engage people or drive the conversation. You can totally work via Slack and via Figma remotely, and have the occasional video call, or if you are in an agile environment, you want to do everyday stand-up type of type of setups. It's really up to the situation that you are in and the team that you're working in, and how it is set up and what is their ways of working. So things like the actual design work is very easy to do remotely. So if you are a UI designer, and I know I haven't been talking about UI designers in this specific stream, I'm basically talking about doing UX design. That's why I went through user testing, recruiting users, collaboration for ideation, and touched on survey tools and other things like that. But if you're a UX designer, you probably know that there are tools like Figma. Actually, all the tools that I mentioned in the collaborative design tools section will help you collaborate with people and be able to easily do UI work. Now, should you be doing remote work because of the pandemic or because going forth? The answer is no and yes. No, purely because I think some of these things are, it's in our human nature to naturally want to be in person. That is the reason why we fly around the world, before COVID, and be able to facilitate workshops in certain countries, if the budget is there and you're working with a client that actually values you enough, to pay you enough to move you across the pond or mountains or wherever you're flying to. So there is something in that human element. I know, you can do it via video calls and make sure that your camera is on and, have, good quality audio and video so that people can see you clearly in detail and hear you nicely, have good internet and all of that stuff. But there is a human element that always urges for us to be in person and actually see each other and laugh and engage in person. And the yes part is that yes, it's totally doable with good quality audio equipment, good quality video equipment, good quality collaboration tools that help you work as a team with your clients and have transparency, and are easy enough for people to adopt and use. It is totally doable. It's 100% doable. So if you are looking for, getting into a UX career and you're thinking about being a digital nomad where you're not necessarily based in a certain country, or you're looking at UX design remote jobs across the globe, it is totally something that, you can do. It's just something that you need to set up for and be able to know that you've got, the tools and the things that, can help you make this thing happen. So that brings us to the end of our design streaming session today. It was a very long one, over an hour, almost an hour. I thought we would have went over an hour now. Thank you for joining us for this design streaming session. Now, if you liked this, please do consider joining us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can hit the like button if you like this. You can dislike it if you thought it wasn't cool. Please do let us know what wasn't cool about it. What would you like us to improve? If you think that is something that you want to check out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which is the days that we have decided on. We try to do this on an everyday basis. When we started earlier on, hit that bell so that you actually know when we go live, or when there's an event that we put up that's going out at a certain time. But we will be going live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Please do check out the dobetterux.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletters on design career insights. Check out our podcast as well that you can find on dobetterux.com, and our blog packed with more content for you to take your career to the next level. I'm Farima, your host. This is Do Better UX, and this is the live design streaming sessions. I will catch you on Wednesday.